Well, this is a really neat canyon. I've been coming here ever since my first visit to this area in 1996. And I was here yesterday and scoped out a picture. And so now I'm racing to beat the light this morning and hope to capture this really neat scene and hopefully a really nice reflected light. Well, I just finished photographing this really neat bush up against this glowing sandstone wall here. And the sun is just really kicking off the wall behind me and illuminating this whole scene with beautiful, warm, reflected light. And the sun has just now gotten onto my camera, and but I got the film exposed in time. So I was using my 135 on my Toho 4x5, and I exposed both Provia and Velvia. And I'm kind of keeping my voice down here because there's a lot of people walking through and it all echoes, and I want people to have their wilderness experience. But anyway, it's been a really neat morning, and it's fun to find this just glowing reflected wall and have this neat little bush in front of this wall. And so anyway, I hope the film turns out. But now it's time to get packed up and head back on out of this canyon and get on with the next part of my day. Sadly, the lab fogged some of my film from this trip. You can see the damage right around the edges. Fortunately, I had planned to crop in significantly anyway due to necessary camera placement and lens choice. So we got away with it, but it's still very disappointing. It's so quiet in here. Just the occasional bird. Man, there's not many places that you can come to in daily life to just have absolute silence. It's amazing. You know, I was just thinking about how many times I've been in this canyon, and my first trip in here was 24 years ago. And so it's really neat to kind of build a relationship with a place and see how it's changed over the years, and also how it's remained the same. That's one nice thing about just going back to places over and over that really speak to you, because there's something special about, making a place a part of you and you become a part of it. And I think that's really nice about landscape photography. We can put a bit of ourselves in the work and just have that relationship, which hopefully comes through in the photographs. After a few successful days in canyons near the Arizona-Utah border, it was time to move locations deeper into southern Utah. I would be based in Torrey, which gave me access to Capitol Reef National Park, the aspen-covered Boulder Mountain, and one very special canyon with easy access, beautiful light, and wonderful subjects. Well, I made my way to Long Canyon today. It's on the Burr Trail. over by Boulder, Utah, and I found this really neat subject here. It's this juniper tree in front of one big crack and then another smaller crack over here, and so I thought it looked really neat. Sort of those two cracks juxtaposed, sort of different but the same. So it's the idea of that sort of repeating pattern, which is always kind of neat. And just, the little tree and the big looming cliff and rocks above it. So anyway, I kind of scrambled to get set up. As I was looking at this thing, when I first saw it, it was all in sun, and I realized that the way the sun was tracking, probably if I waited just a couple minutes, the sun would move in such a way that it wouldn't be on the rocks, but it would be illuminating the little tree. And I thought that was pretty special. To have that sort of difference in lighting. So that's what I did. It was a little windy, so I grabbed the Pentax 645 and was able to bump the ISO up so I could stop the motion on it. But it's really a neat little subject, and I'm really excited that I found it today. I'll be exploring this area for a few more days, and hopefully I'll find some more interesting things. Well, it turns out that after all the sun went off the scene, there's a ton of reflected light kicking in and just creating a beautifully warm setup here. There's this big wall right behind me, and it's just full of sun, and so it's just kicking this beautiful light in there. So now I've been able to work on a bunch of different compositions and trying different things to see what works well. And of course the wind has calmed down now, so I think in the coming days I'll bring the film camera back and give it a try with some with some Velvia or some Provia. So anyway, this is a really special spot. I'm glad I found it. I think it's really, really a neat subject, and I'll come back and have another crack at it another day. But meanwhile, I've got another picture down canyon a little bit that I worked on a little bit last year, and I want to try it again this year. So I'm going to make my way down canyon and set up for that. That light for that should be good in about an hour, so I have enough time to get there and get set up. So it's been a really productive afternoon in Long Canyon, and I'm really excited to be here in southern Utah. One of my goals for this trip was to re-photograph a scene that I photographed last year when I was here, and I unfortunately had a bit of a focus problem in my haste setting up the camera and the last little bit of light we had when we stumbled upon this subject. I didn't quite get things tightened down enough, and I just had some play in the rear standard, and so I missed focus in part of the image. So fortunately, the scene still looks pretty good right now. Not quite as good as last year, but it still looks very nice. So I've rephotographed it again this year, and since I'm in the area for a few more days, I'll come back and check on it again. If the leaves turn and looks a little better, then I'll expose a few more sheets. But I exposed both Velvia and Provia on this scene, and I just think it's really special with these two trees, one kind of a smaller one and a larger one kind of sheltering it, and so I think it's kind of a story there. And so it was really kind of heartbreaking last year when I got the film back and it just wasn't quite sharp. So I'm glad I was able to come back and try this again this year and see that the scene is still here and still looks about the same as it did last year. So anyway, again, I'll be eager to see how the film looks, but this late light, it should be nice and warm, and it should look really good on the Velvia and the Provia. So we'll see how that looks. And so now it's time to pack up and head to the hotel and look for some dinner and make my plans for tomorrow. Definitely have to load some film. I shot all my film today, so looking forward to the next few days in this wonderful area. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Sadly, another piece of film damaged by the lab. Fortunately, only minor fogging around the edges this time, since I didn't plan to crop this one.